Down the bottom right in the blue for Maturino, trying to avenge or at least do better than his teammate. His name is Astrea.
And in the top left side, we are looking at the main base of another Canadian, but not the Canadian Zerg this time around. It's our Canadian Protoss representing Apprentice Esports. He's the man with the magnificent beard, DisK.
You know, Roddy, going into, I think it was Atlanta last year, we think about beard as or DisK as having this incredible beard, right? You mentioned it. The man, the beard, they're one. But he shaved going into DreamHack Atlanta last year, and we saw him on broadcast. It's like, who is this man? What has he done? Where is DisK? And
yeah, that's similar to when Gerald got rid of his mustache for a little bit, and we're like, oh no, who is that boy? Like, where is the beautiful mustachio that we all gotten used to and we love? Astrea, by the way, with the pylon and the gateway on the low ground, so maybe inspired by Max Specs. Obviously, they are very familiar with one another. They played a lot of games against each other for quite some time. Let's see. So far, it's just gate into Cybercore since the probe is here. Makes it very difficult for Astrea to plan down that Nexus. I wonder if DisK has a different way of how he wants to deal with this. What's also worth mentioning, by the way, is that for some reason, we have a gateway, a pylon up on the other side of the map for Astrea. So, is this just a fake expand? Is this the crazy stuff that we were talking about?
you know, I think that might just be Schrodinger's pylon. The whole like, oh, well, you're just missing a pylon in your base, so something's weird. You're proxying, you're doing something as DisK looks to count the pylons. But I mean, this has gone on a long time now, Roddy. It is 2 minutes into this game. Astrea still doesn't have his Nexus. But importantly, he's not really saving for it. We're at 230 minerals right now. He's building more things. And let's see, does this probe go back? Yeah, proxy Stargate.
It's way too early for that stuff, though. I don't think it... yeah, it is going to be a proxy Stargate. But it was way too early to even say, like, oh, you're missing a pylon. Like, maybe now you can be like, okay, perhaps there is a pylon missing. But if your opponent would have a one-gate fast expand setup on the low ground, they're not supposed to have 3 pylons that quickly, because it's not a double gate setup. And I think at this point, this cannot necessarily be certain. A pylon is missing, as like his own third pylon just barely finished up. And now he's got another one in the natural. He is actually going to go for some sort of a proxy himself. He's going to build a gate, so it's at least a 3 gate. It can even turn into a 4 gate. I mean, I kind of like it. This game is so weird. And in theory, I really like this for DisK, as long as he gets a single shield battery. On the other hand, he may not think that he needs a shield battery that early. You can't really blame him for it, but he's gonna have a big stalker advantage. Gateway number 4 has been warped in as well. Astrea is gonna get the defensive robo, but it's gonna take a long time before that robo is online.
Yeah, so for now, DisK, he kills the probe, so at the very least, Astrea knows roughly what's happening. He saw that there's no natural, but he doesn't know what's happening on the left side. Not just yet. That being said, DisK wants to run up forward here. Maybe he's posturing with 2 stalkers and a probe to soak the first shot. It's 3 stalkers and a shield battery for Astrea on his side of the map, so he has the advantage until that 4th stalker will arrive. Get the probe down eventually. It doesn't matter. And the Oracle in the main base. Shield battery not done in time. 6 dead probes. You're 5 on the other side, but 5 in the main base. Excuse me. And he's just sitting on top. You can kill probes through a shield battery. He's okay to just shift target it down, but DisK on the other side. There's no Nexus, so the shield battery cannot overcharge. 2 stalkers to 7. 2 stalkers to 6. This natural will not be held. The gateways get depowered here, Roddy. 7 probes.
DisK needs more. DisK definitely needs more, and he knows that, so now he's going to go for it. He could maybe go for that pylon, because once the Immortal is out, he is in trouble, and the probes around is not quite there yet, so the robo is going to get unpowered. 2 stalkers remaining, 1 stalker remains, and after this, I think DisK could just go for the pylon again. That is exactly what he does. So yes, that robo is finished. That Immortal is 60% done, but Immortal will not see the light of day. And this is going to do what we kind of hoped he would. Switch it up a little bit, be a bit crazier. Don't always be the honest, macro-oriented Protoss. Go dirty. We play Protoss for a reason. It's okay to be a little dirty, and this game is all over.
It really is. I mean, what are you going to do? Probes fight stalkers fairly well, but when you have nothing else to fight with, gateway halfway done, I guess Astrea, yeah, he's going to tap out. I guess the play is, it's like you lose all your probes, but you get all their probes. But even then, Roddy, a single Oracle does not beat 7 stalkers. It's not going to happen.
No. Thank the Lord, though, that he did get that shield battery. Sure, it was a little bit late, or it wasn't late for a normal Oracle, but since this Oracle was built so close towards his main, it obviously showed up a bit quicker than he expected it to be. But the fact that it was there, and then after losing the first 5 probes, he could just focus on his Stalker battle on the other side of the map, I think that truly helped him a lot. And what I also loved is that he just went for it. Like, there are still moments where it's like, oh, it's 7 against 3, but yeah, I shouldn't commit. I shouldn't go through that choke point because that's where it gets scary, and maybe the shield batteries. No, if you're that committed with a 4 gate, you already lost probes, you just need to send it. And he did. He saw that Stalker being warped in, and I think that kind of pulled the trigger where he's like, if I just go for it right now, even if he saves one of the other Stalkers, I can get on top of the one that's still being warped in. And then I loved how decisive he was in the main base, going for that first pylon, going for the second pylon. Just great calls.
Yeah, no, really well played by DisK. And again, we're on the steps of an upset. You got to climb those steps even further, but we were here in game 1 or in our first NA series as well. Future played an impressive, aggressive game 1, was able to break Scarlet down, and then she came back 2-0 from there, gets the 2-1 victory. Can Astrea do the same? That was a weird build. It was a callback to a year ago where you would go low ground gate expand and just turn into an all-in, and that was probably more common than actually getting the Nexus on the low ground.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that as much anymore, and I think we're partially seeing why. You can break it pretty easily.
Yeah, it was weird, and I love that you mentioned as well that, yeah, you have not 1 but 2 shield batteries there, but you don't have a Nexus, and so the batteries are so far away from your main that you cannot use overcharge. And it also means, by the way, that your batteries spawn with only 50 energy, so it's actually very easy to drain them for the player that has way more Stalkers. In the end, the batteries survived, but the pylon did it. And obviously that pylon also died easily because you cannot save it with overcharge and whatnot. Overall, fun game by DisK. I liked it. Astrea was going to try to make it weird. Made it weird, but DisK said, that's okay, because I don't always have to sit back. Astrea with an in-base pylon. Don't tell me he's going to cannon rush. Is this Fear Dragon rubbing off on Astrea?
I mean, we're going to find out, because in the upper right, he's down a game to the surprise of, I think, a lot of people. His name is Astrea.
Since he's not sending out a probe, I think he's just going to get a gateway here. And maybe he will just do what Strange likes to do, as Strange is one of the only high-level Protoss players that's comfortable playing 2-gate openings while not walling off and just playing it from the main base. In the bottom left side, we are looking at the main base of the man who built this pylon, where we expect our first pylon to be the Canadian Protoss taking the 1-0 lead. Apprentice Esports DisK.
So, Roddy, this build from Astrea, would you say it's a strange build?
Actually, yes. For the 2 reasons that you are asking me that question. It is strange, this build, and it's also just a bit strange, because the first thing that everyone always thinks of when you see this is like, can't you just go 2 adepts and kill everything? Well, it's not that easy, because A, if this was not planning on going 2 adepts, do you now switch up your game plan and do you go for double adept? And B, obviously Astrea wasn't born last night. He knows that if he does this, he can be vulnerable against 2 adepts, so I'm sure that he has a plan for it. And then obviously the question is, well, if there is such an easy plan, why doesn't everyone do it? Because it's not just the first 2 adepts you need to worry about. There are scenarios where this becomes very annoying. Think of some of those 8 adept openings, right? If it's 8 adept Oracle, this is actually a very frustrating base layout to deal with that. But yeah, let's see. DisK is not going to go for it. He's not going to change up his plan. He wanted to go Stalkers, and he will still go Stalkers.
Well, I mean, his plan worked out really well in game 1, Roddy. He went for the proxy gateway. He just smashes the proxy of Astrea, even taking 5-6 probes worth of damage. Doesn't matter. I guess 7 Stalkers beat an Oracle. That's a different type of rock, paper, scissors, I guess. But Astrea had nothing. So if your game plan's working, why deviate?
Now, we can't really 4-gate here in game 2. We can obviously still go for something aggressive if we want to, but it seems that DisK is going to do what he very often does on the ladder and in many other tournaments, and that is just double Stalker into double Sentry into an expand. I quite often compare DisK's playstyle to Showtime. Where Showtime obviously is not too much of an all-inner either, often is all about scouting, defending, reacting, and just dragging it out. I think DisK is kind of the Canadian version of Showtime.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. Maybe with more of a focus on his micro. When I think of DisK more than anything, I think about his Blink Stalker micro is really up there. It's a solid thing that he can do. So that's another reason why getting the natural here is really nice. You get the Twilight on the way very quickly behind that, and you just get into your 2-base, 3-base Blink Stalker play as quickly as possible. And we talked about how Astrea has weird builds early, weird builds late, this really powerful late game. Well, I do think DisK, that his one advantage is in that Stalker play.
Astrea has pretty good Blink Stalker micro as well.
That's
But
fair.
to be fair, I can't really think of one high-level Protoss that I'm like, yeah, he's good, but you know what? He doesn't have good Blink Stalker micro. Like, if you can think of one, please DM it to me. I know you want to put him on blast, but I feel like almost all the players at this level just have excellent Blink Stalker micro.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where maybe it's because of the quality of player that we see DisK play against in most of the tournaments he plays in, but I don't see, you don't often see Protoss players take 10 Stalkers versus 10 Stalkers and come out ahead. You blink back and forth, and that's kind of how it goes, instead of warp-ins and other things. But I feel like I do see DisK, maybe not incredibly regularly, but regularly enough, just win the Stalker fight on the blink, So, I don't know. Maybe it's the quality of the competition. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't know which games you've seen exactly. Maybe if it's you're watching DisK stream and he runs into me on the ladder and he's out microing me, then I'm like, yeah, you know what, Vio, I see it. But I don't know if DisK plays against like Trigger or Astrea that we can really say that, oh, we expect DisK to out micro his opponent. Like, don't know if that's really a thing. So far, the defense has been good against these oracles. Astrea's going not single oracle, but double oracle into a very quick Dark Shrine. Now, DisK does have these sentries. He has been spamming some hallucinated units, and the hallucinated Phoenix should give him the confirmation that there is a Dark Shrine in the main base. I'm not sure if he was actually looking at it, because he's sending another one immediately. It's gonna go up to 3 bases. I think this is one of these moments where he saw it, but he not quite certain if he's seen it, but now he gets the Robo too, and it's near a battery and a pylon, so I guess DisK did already see it and is aware of what's happening.
Yeah, I think so. It's also one of those things where if you go back and even if you... Oh, Oracles get a couple more probes. They're very nice, Astrea. But I think it's one of those things where even if you don't see it, like you don't click on it and see it when the hallucination goes in, if you go back and take a look at what your hallucination saw, there's not a lot of things that a warping an orb of that size in that location are going to be other than actually a Dark Shrine. So he should have the understanding one way or the other. And yeah, you're right. The Robo's on the way, but DTs are warping in now. And there is a timing before the Observer's out where maybe this gets something done. It's a slim one, Roddy, but it's bigger than what we saw earlier today. And that did end the game.
Yeah, it's very tiny, but let's see. Can it actually... Maybe you should just go for a couple of probes to guarantee damage in the natural. Force field would be sick, I think. I would have liked a force field there on the top side of our minerals to keep that DT at bay. We're going to drop the force field on the right side instead, and that means the DT falls without getting a single probe. Really good defense by DisK, who is down a couple workers, but he does have a much quicker third Nexus, and he's got an Immortal on the way as well. Honestly, DisK has a pretty good setup here in Game 2. Would just love to see him build 3 workers at a time, not 2 workers at a time. But besides that, he's kind of cooking.
He is, but Astrea, he's up 7 workers right now, despite greeting out for the Dark Shrine on top of everything else. The Oracles, they've gotten enough done. They've killed 6 or 7 probes, and that has built Astrea a bit of an economic lead. Is now pushing forward here, thinking about it, trying to target the sentry down. That's a nice bounty and into the main base.
No,
Oracles.
stasis. Oh, sorry. There was a very big stasis trap that was awfully close to connecting, and it will still connect as DisK is going to blink forward. Thank the Lord for DisK that he did make one Immortal, because the Immortal and the Shield Battery are going to keep him safe here. We're still losing probes as one more DT snuck into the natural, so it is definitely adding up. You said it before, it was a bit of a problem when he was down 6 or 7 workers. He's now down 13 workers. And the only thing that DisK really has that Astrea doesn't is one Immortal. But that's just not enough to run to the other side of the map and create your own little Protoss party.
No, not really. So DisK, not only is he behind economically, down 13, 12 workers, Astrea's got a 4th base on the way. He's got this nice contain on where DisK wants to be. He's not trying to end the game with this. I mean, that was a nice catch there on the stasis trap, but he's just making it hard for DisK to be comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, Roddy, you're not going to expand. And even if you try to expand, there's a DT finding the spot there anyways. So DisK, it's going to be a while before he gets his extra base.
Yeah, the mini-map kind of says it all, right? Where Astrea is sort of surrounding this, has all the map vision, has like a little bit of everything scattered across the map, and then DisK just hanging on to the 3 bases that he's been working with for such a long time. And sure, he had a quicker 3rd base, but doesn't do that much for you if you never catch up in workers. I thought, okay, he's done a couple, but he can build 3 workers at a time. He'll catch up in no time. But yeah, no time turned into a couple minutes straight, and this is kind of painful at this point, but at least a lot of gateways are coming online. There is a Robo Bay being warped in as well. And if you head into Disruptors and your army supply just keeps increasing, it's okay. You can definitely make comebacks in this matchup. It's not one of these where like, oh, there's just nothing we can really do anymore. It's a numbers game. Especially if you're investing in the double Robo Disruptor, you can be down 20 supply in a base and still win.
So, Roddy, as the Disruptor supply count has changed a little bit, it's actually changed in several ways. The Stalker's actually blinking forward on top of this. They see the stasis trap, though, so no repeat of about of 2 odd minutes ago. But as we move into the late game and we start to add Disruptors, second Robo Bay, all of these things, is there an upper limit or is there an optimal number? Has that changed at all with how many Disruptors DisK and I guess eventually Astrea are going to want to get? Is it... Again, they're more supply now. They're not quite as efficient.
It's a good question, and I do not have the answer for you yet. I do think you can always go the bare minimum up to 6, because I feel like if you have less, then, one shot whiffs, the other one is a zoning shot, and then you try to land one good one, but your opponent blinks forward, gets on top of it. So I kind of think if you're investing in double Robo, you're relying on the Disruptors. I think 6 is kind of the sweet spot of the bare minimum. I wouldn't hate 8 either. Yeah, maybe it's between 6 and 8, right? If you think of how much supply they cost, going above 8 is maybe a bit too much. But we will see. I don't know if we're even going to see that many Disruptors, because this, okay, does blink forward, snipes the Oracle. That's a nice little pickoff. But now he needs to defend against a lot of Zealots, and it would be so lovely to have a cannon or 2. And he does have 1 cannon to the 3rd, but against all these Zealots, I wouldn't hate more than a single cannon. Because Astrea is going to send in the first Nova, though, is not bad. The second one has potential, bit of overkill there, but a pretty good start to the fight. And with battery overcharge, another battery in the back, and a cannon in the back, kind of think that DisK should be able to hold. If only we had 1 more Nova, but even without that final Nova, I think it should be good enough.
I mean, with the +2 timing here as well, it feels really nice for DisK. Another Nova, just a little bit off track. And by the way, DisK getting damage done to Astrea on the other side. Those Stalkers, 3 of them finding value. The Zealots, they're trying to burrow their way in, but they're fighting into cannons and shield batteries and all of these other things. Astrea massively overplays his hand there. It's just not working. Stalkers get on top of the Warp Prism as well as now they hide away from the Zealots. What a timing for DisK. Astrea hit right as his +2 was done, 20 seconds before Astrea's. Astrea, anti-timing DisK though. Very happy with this fight, Roddy. This kind of turns this game all on its head.
Yep, no, that's a beautiful hold by DisK, but it absolutely worked out a lot. Astrea made so many Zealots. And Zealots, when they have to run into batteries and cannons, and they only have a little bit of surface area on 1 Stalker at a time that can then blink back into safety in the back, yeah, that's not where Zealots shine. Like, if that fight would have taken place in the center of the map, of course, it's a landslide victory for Astrea. But seeing the Zealots stir up, going to different angles, work on a cannon, work on a couple of the structures there, and then 1 Stalker being attacked at a time, that just wasn't it. Like, this did pretty good there. I think the Novas had a tiny bit more potential than what they ended up getting, but they were obviously all right. It's more just that I think Astrea took a fight there that is okay if you're on 5 bases and 85 workers, but with how close this game got economically, because of the fact that DisK found some damage, I don't think that was quite it. We have 4 DTs though, with Shadow Stride blinking into the natural, but the Pro Pool is good, battery overcharge is good, DT dies, and DisK is weathering the storm. And Astrea honestly needs to start getting very careful that he doesn't throw this game.
I mean, the one problem that DisK is running into right now is everything else is going so nicely for him. His 4th base was very slow, and then it got canceled. So Astrea expanding onto that 5th. Yeah, DisK took an incredible fight. The DTs didn't get much done, but his economy is not all that impressive. This 4th base is very late.
No, his economy is not impressive, and even if he's able to, let's say, max out on a better army, because he's got 7 Disruptors now and he's working on number 8, I'd be worried about the base trade, right? Because Astrea's got a very good base trading army with a Shadow Stride. He's gonna, I don't know, not do a whole lot here. For a split second, I was like, who blinked that deep into the natural? But that was just DisK buying some time for his own reinforcements to show up. I'd say it would make a lot of sense for DisK, with the current army comps that we work with, to truly cannon and battery up that fourth base at the bottom. Because I'd be very concerned about even making a tiny bit of progress with my main army in the center of the map, and then losing the fourth base immediately to 12 Zealots and 8 DTs again on top of it. So I'd say the more cannons and batteries you can get there, the merrier. As DisK is going to blink forward, by the way, on the left side, and he takes a pretty good fight. Astrea was a little late to retreat, but we do have these cannons getting on top of the first cannon before it's on. Excuse me, the DTs getting on top of the cannons. Did we recall an ops? Oh, yes, we did. So that's not bad either, because that's now 3 or 4 DTs for just a cannon and a cancelled cannon. Not bad at all for DisK.
Yeah, but it is maneuverability, and Astrea is going to take advantage of that immediately. Gets on top of the Robo. Disruptors will force map. Blink comes off cooldown in time, and now here come the Zealots. DisK had the +2 upgrade lead. It's +2 versus +1 at that fight 5 minutes ago. But Astrea, he's got the upgrade lead now, and halfway for DisK. So Astrea, his army, just on fighting without disruptors is just that much better. Luckily though, DisK this time, he's paying much more attention to this right side base. The Zealots, the Blink Stalkers, the Blink DTs, they're not going to get a lot. On the left side though, disruptor shots not really landing. Astrea tapping them down as they go. Blink's on top of him as well here. Astrea, that last shot's going to be really, really good, and he will be forced back, but excellent trades from Astrea. At the end of the day, knocks down so many of those disruptors. Doesn't get the base though.
Literally all of them. Yeah, DisK was focused a lot on that fight in the bottom side of the map, and obviously rightfully so, because it was a lot of Zealots and DTs. Then Astrea started showing up with his main army, and DisK is like, okay, I'll fire a Nova. Astrea wants for it, guns it down. He's like, okay, another one. Then Astrea guns that one down as well, and then DisK is like, oh no, so he runs back, fires all the Novas at once. 2 of them got so-so connections. One of them actually blew up a couple of his own units as well. So it wasn't only Astrea's forces. Yeah, that was by far and away, I think, the best fight that Astrea has taken in a while. And now we have that War Prism sneaking into the back of the main base. This could become problematic for DisK, but DisK is very quick to respond.
That he is, but 5, 6 Stalkers aren't it? This amount of Zealots and Blink DTs getting on top of the pylon, so there's no detection here anymore either. This is the move that Astrea has been looking for. 1 disruptor falls, second one doesn't get damage at the front here either. DisK is back against the wall at this point. He's got to deal with the DTs at his fourth. He's got to deal with the Zealots and the DTs in his main, cutting his production down. And hey, Astrea is backing up for a second, but there's a terrifying army at the front as well. DisK, what's your solution here? You got so many problems.
Yep, well, he's gonna blink into the main base with almost all of his Stalkers, and it's okay, since Astrea did kind of let go in the center. There's so many units that Astrea cannot actually pick all of them up, and that is a bit painful. In the end, 2 DTs, 2 Zealots survive. DisK is now going to use a recall with a very quick battery overcharge. What about an extra observer or 2, you know? And we've got triple Robo DisK. There really is no need to play triple Robo single observer against a man who's got that many DTs, has a War Prism that you know is close to your main base. Like, the man needs more observers, because cannons can always fall.
Yeah, but instead, 3 disruptors on the way at a time right now. DisK desperately trying to get to that tech up once again, because again, look at that. Astrea's on 6 bases, 7th one on the way. DisK only on 4. He's just trying to play this game cost effectively on the disruptor connections, things like that. Meanwhile, Astrea, he's on 3-1-1. His upgrades are fantastic. He's got all the Zealots, all the DTs, and now into the natural. More disruptors fall as they spawn. This is starting to become a significant problem here. DisK can't keep his disruptors alive.
Yep, loses a couple of them there. As long as he doesn't lose the remaining ones, he's still got a chance. The Zealots in the natural should be able to get cleaned up with that battery support. And it was a cannon. The cannon did die, so that's going to open the doors for even more DTs. Overall, that could have gone a lot worse, because that was a lot of Zealots. But yeah, with how rich Astrea is obviously comfortable losing a couple of Zealots. It's still not 100% over. Like, there are moments where if it's this many bases against only 3-4 bases, it is 100% over. Supplies are closed. The game heavily favors Astrea, but Astrea still needs to be a tiny bit careful, because if the only thing you're working with are Zealots and Stalkers, there is a chance that you take a bad fight and then just struggle cleaning up the army of your opponent on the other side of the map.
Yeah, now we're starting to see some, not just economic damage, structural damage getting done here to DisK as well. Losing one of those Robos, one of the big things in this game for him has been these disruptors, and now he can just build 1 less at a time. We do need this. Oh, nice blink there from Astrea. Low ground to high ground, gets a disruptor. We do need to see DisK spend that money. Now it's going to go down, and we're going to start to hit a point, Roddy. Natural 4 mineral patches, 3rd base. running out of money here as well. DisK now finally needs to get out on the map, and this is going to be like the one timing where he's going to be really powerful. The upgrades for Astrea are fantastic, but disruptors don't care about that, and DisK actually finds himself, at least briefly, up in army supply. And in quality, Roddy, I don't think it's a question. The number of disruptors here in a straight-up fight, it's so hard for Astrea to actually take a fight.
I would love a Templar Archives on the side of DisK. Like, he's got a bit of gas, he's got plenty of access to his simulators, and hasn't really been using the gas all that much, other than some Stalkers and Disruptors. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that yet. Astrea is going to send it in the natural and in the bottom side of the map. At the same time, he's going to lose a lot of units here, and still needs to be a tiny bit careful. Will find economic damage to the bottom side as well. He's going to recall as many Stalkers home as possible, but the Zealots and the DTs are now able to just go to town on the probes. You've linked once and you see that many probes falling. Do we recall with an observer? I really hope we do. I don't see an observer. Oh, and that actually means that the DTs will kill that next two.
And some disruptors as well, blinking out on top of things. DisK got to go right now. Astrea's playing. By the way, he took a gold base. He has so much money on the map. The relationship between probes and Astrea is something special. But now DisK gets on top of the Stalkers here. And let's make no bones about it, Roddy. This army from DisK is the last army he's going to have here. He's got to win in the next 30 seconds or so. And Astrea can continue to warp in so much more. But Immortals? In this disruptor, I mean, it's only 4 disruptors in this army, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, I definitely think it's okay. I think every unit for Astrea is okay. Stalk, as long as he makes units, as long as he keeps spending his money, don't forget that the upgrades are heavily in his favor as well. The man is 4 upgrades ahead. You could really see that when this blinked forward, well, that Immortal was very short-lived. And this is also something we spoke about a long time ago, where even if this can get an army that could potentially win the fight on the other side of the map, he is so vulnerable to a base trade. Astrea knows that. Now, a lot of the gateways are going to be unpowered immediately. I believe we have a few more gates on the left side. That is a really good call. I still think that DisK is going to lose all of his bases incredibly quick. And Disruptors are just not the best base trade unit.
No, they really aren't. And I love the call here from Astrea as well. He understands what's happening. The pylons go down, everything going down. Well, first of all, Astrea has more bases than I think DisK will ever be able to kill. But even if that was the case, and it's just 1 base remaining, Astrea, when he sees this army across the map, immediately Dark Shrine. And because Dark Shrines are by far the ultimate base trade unit. So, wait, do we have any probes? DisK, no probes on the map here. There's no way he wins a base trade. All the structures.
He's dead.
He's going to die by elimination.
Yeah, he is actually dead. If a couple of units get on top of that pile in the bottom right side. Does DisK even have detection left? Yeah, he's got 2 observers, but I think DisK knows that as well, that he is mega dead. GG gets called. Astrea wins a very chaotic, messy, perhaps sometimes sloppy 22-minute game, but we do often say that if you have a big economic advantage, you have way more bases, but you're down in tech, it's okay to be a bit sloppy and take 1 or 2 questionable fights. Because 1 questionable fight often leads into an opening elsewhere, because you do force your opponent to truly react to all the units you're shoving down his throat. And I think Astrea played it out very well. I just kind of wish that DisK would have gone for 1 other unit, whether it's the Archon or Colossus. And I know Colossus are very expensive and are vulnerable against a lot of Stalkers, but he has so many Stalkers that if Astrea would ever blink to get on top of a Colossus, then you can really punish him with your own blink. And Colossus are very good in keeping Zealots at bay, keeping DTs at bay, and just fire away from afar. Or a couple of Archons, and then just try to keep that strong army together. Defend against Zealot run-by is a bit easier. Cannon, Battery, Archon, a few of your own Zealots. Then you can leave way less behind and still go to the other side of the map. Just 1 extra unit was missing, but I guess he just felt he was too broke, and we can't really blame him for that.
Yeah, too broken, didn't have enough time. Disruptors, they pop out so much faster than a Colossus does. And with just the Zealots in your 3rd, Zealots in your 4th, Zealots in your main, Stalkers in your 3rd, whatever it is. Because Astrea was absolutely... He was playing that like a Zerg does, honestly. Just swarming all over the place. The time it takes, the build time it takes to pump out a Colossus or 2 or 3... I don't know that he had that time, honestly, instead of, getting a couple disruptors out. So between the money and the time, DisK in a really awkward spot, but it was a fun game. It was
like, maybe you don't, but I do feel like then at that point, if you complement the army that he had with either, let's say, 3 Archons or a couple of Colossus, I think you have an invincible army against pure Zealot Stalker DT. So that would actually force Astrea to really play it different, maybe force him into his own transition, or maybe make him even more reckless, and then perhaps it would have been the downfall But it's a hard call to make. And as you said, he didn't have that much money, didn't have a decent amount of gas. And at one point, all the assimilators were still running. So maybe we could have tried with an Archon or two, even if it's just to let Archons defend at home against Zealots and DTs. Because an Archon, a cannon, and a battery is a very good defense, especially if you complement it with a Zealot or two defensively. And maybe the Stalker Disruptor army on the other side of the map could force Astrea into fights he didn't really want to take. But it was a fun game. Kind of the PvP that we got to know from Astrea, where that man is just very capable of doing everything. Like, it's never crazy, it's never wild enough for Astrea, and that also makes him very fun to watch.
Yeah, that was a really fun game, number 2, and now we're tied up. And by the way, a little bit of a delay. Astrea needed to get some more tea, but he has that now. So we're gonna get going pretty quickly here for game number 3 as soon as DisK is ready, and I'll back off whatever he's doing as well. Oceanborn Roddy is going to be map number 3. You get 3 high ground bases. You get that low ground base that is very wide open. It feels like a map that, as we talk about PvP, might be a little bit harder to play in the late game because, again, once you're off that platform, it's a little bit more wide open. And DisK, he almost got there. He almost did what he had to do, almost defended on that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see, I think I know your answer, but do you want to see more of that game 1 aggression, or... I guess.
Yeah, well, I think the game 1 aggression had a lot to do with the opening of Astrea. If Astrea goes for a pylon and a gateway on the low ground, yeah, I wouldn't hate seeing something aggressive, but I don't think Astrea is going to do that. I think it's a little bit risky if it already didn't work out in game 1, unless he just wants to prove a point that he can actually just play it normally. He can expand. He can go full max specs and get away with it. So I don't know what I want to see from DisK, but I think it comes down to what he scouts, right? Like, DisK, I'm sure, has 2 plans. Plan number 1 is for regular 2-gate on the high ground. Plan number 2 is if he goes pylon, gateway, low ground, then I'll do this. And the rest, yeah, you just kind of take it from there. But I wouldn't hate mid-game aggression, because that second game, even though DisK was kind of forced into that corner, it was a lot of defending. And the saddest thing is that he was behind in workers when I really don't think he should have been behind in workers. Yeah, he lost a couple to the Oracles, but if you have 3 bases so much quicker than your opponent, if you build 3 probes at a time, no way you're down in workers.
Yeah, just cutting them a little bit. Maybe not hockeying the 3rd Nexus as well. I don't know, but we're gonna get to. Oh, excuse me. We're gonna get to go into game 3 now. Actually, we're loading in. It's taking a little bit longer than usual. So, Roddy, we talk about what we want to see: more mid-game aggression out of DisK, maybe early game aggression if we do see some sort of low ground expand coming out of Astrea. Given what you've seen in game 1 and game 2 out of Astrea and DisK, is this 2-1 DisK? Is this 2-1 Astrea? Who moves on to that 2-0 match?
Still feeling Astrea. I think that's the safe choice, but Astrea definitely can get a bit carried away in some of his craziness in trying to be always unique and trying to have some fun as well. Like, Astrea has always been a guy that's been vocal about this as well, where he says he wants to have fun and he'll just go for certain builds because it is fun. And even if certain things are considered to be the optimal way to play, he will not necessarily always play like that, because if he doesn't enjoy it, he's not going to be that good at it. Like, he said this before at home story cups and whatnot. So I'm still feeling Astrea, but there's definitely a chance for DisK. He is good. We are, by the way, guys, buying some time because we are just not able to load into the game. We have been stuck for a while. Someone, I think, is going to drop out, or literally no one is going to drop out. And we can just hop into Oceanborn for map 3 between this awesome American and Canadian PvP long day style matchup. Game 3. Let's go, Bio.
Okay, here we are in the upper left, finally loaded in, looking for that upset for Apprentice Esports. It's DisK.
Bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of the man who loves to bring a little bit of creativity to every single best of 3 he plays. Representing Maturino Esports, hailing from San Diego, California. It's Astrea.
Man, Roddy, outside of everything we talked about, that game number 2, made me so happy, because that's, I think, my favorite way of PvP. You have one player playing Style 8, Blink Stalker Disruptor, right? Playing a little bit more defensively, trying to get these really positive trades. And then you have the other players just foregoing the robo attack for the most part. Mass gateway units, mass counterattacks all over the place. And it's because the 2 players have different win conditions. DisK, hold on, get good trades. Eventually, you're going to build an army that Astrea can't really fight. Astrea, pin you back, get damage done over and over again. Don't allow DisK to get to that point. That's pretty cool. Like, we have a lot of mirror matchups where it's, I don't know, Marine Tank versus Marine Tank, and you have the same win condition. But when we have players just playing different styles like this, it leads to a lot more dynamic gameplay. As Astrea talking about dynamic gameplay, there's a pylon on the map. What's he got in store for us?
And now what you mentioned in that first game could absolutely come into play, right? Where DisK is scouting with his probe, and he's like, wait a minute, like, my second pylon is finishing up, and obviously these guys know the timings very well. You're missing something. Now, Korean PvP for a long time, this was just the default. They would always hide the second pylon, so this doesn't necessarily make your alarm bells go off. Here's something that you have to start thinking about immediately. Okay, a pylon is missing. Is it just a pylon, or will it be pylon and tech that's missing?
Well, and it's going to be pylon and tech that's missing, because at 150 gas, Astrea drops the Stargate. And now, well, DisK is going to have to start to look around the map a little bit. Does he have this? Does he have this? No, at least not right now. The probe's pathing right by it.
But if he doesn't change it, he's gonna find it, and it's a really sweet moment to find it, because at this point the investment is already made. It's pretty far along. Painful moment for Astrea. Fantastic scouting here by DisK. And DisK also, I think, already has a good setup to deal with this, because he's got 2 gateways. He's building stalkers. Need to keep an eye on these adepts, by the way. I hope that DisK is still thinking of adepts. This could be a big moment, because if these 2 adepts shade into the main base, it'd be problematic. But DisK already very early says, nope, not happening. Not gonna deal with that. Now he's actually just going for that Stargate. I don't think he's gonna be able to unpower it. It's gonna be close. Maybe he will, actually. You think he will? Can I hear you, Bio? Are you still here?
I think absolutely he depowers that one, and yeah, he's going to. So Adepts, Stalkers, they're going to shoot this out, but this was a big commitment here from Astrea. And now not only is it scouted, the Oracle's dead. So, or not the Oracle's dead, but it's going to take a long time for this Oracle to pop out here. This is a disaster for Astrea right now, even as he trades Stalker for Stalker, but now Astrea has to warp back home because he's worried about the reinforcements of DisK. That, by the way, Ronnie, they don't even exist. It's a waste of energy.
Yeah, there's 2 more Stalkers there, by the way. I think if the Stalkers would have just started working on his body, he cancels one because he thinks he's going to get the Oracle out. But now, since the Stalker count is 3 and it's not 1, it's going to be another close call. This time around, I think the Oracle will get out, but it is awfully close. And at least DisK knows that the Oracle got out. I mean, Blink is 75% done. Astrea, I do think, is having a good read at it, because he's already building a battery on the high ground, and he's getting a Robo, and that Robo is like 75% done. And this is one hell of a game. Very chaotic, very PvP, very NA Stalkers. Getting a lot of damage, by the way, on that Oracle. That's so nice for DisK. All right, DisK knows what he needs to do, and that is just focus on his Stalker. Oh, careful, force field, by the way, could hurt, because Blink wasn't quite done yet, but it is done now, so that force field will not hurt, and he can just blink to the other side. It all comes down to that one big daddy Immortal.
That it does. Astrea buying time as much as he can. Down in gateways here, down in production, down technically in tech. He can't blink. But the shield battery on the high ground, that sentry buying so much time. And the one problem for DisK, as he tries to make this happen, Roddy, he can't see up the ramp. Not easily. He can't blink into the main base. Sentry will fall, but the Immortal is here. And that Big Daddy Immortal holding the high ground. Stalkers, they blink forward because the sentry's gone. But Astrea still holds on. And at what point, I was going to say, at what point does DisK give up? He gives up right now. He's going to still keep the pressure going, but there's a natural on the way. Stalkers in the main base. This Oracle won't find any value. And now we turn into this game where DisK, he's got that natural on the way.
One more blink. One more blink. Can he blink for the Oracle? Yes, gets the 2 shots off. Big win there for DisK. Yeah, I don't hate that he transitioned out of it because he just lost too many Stalkers there. And that fight was actually kind of away from the shield battery. And I know there was an Immortal, and Immortals deal crazy damage. He could potentially go for that Immortal if it's exposed on the low ground. Astrea really wants to expand, but it's not going to be that easy. You need to be careful here if you are Astrea. With these skins, it's kind of hard to see, but one of them is an Immortal. It's the one at the bottom. And there's a War Prism as well. He goes for the Prism. Now he can get the Immortal. That could be game over. I think Astrea is dead. DisK pulls the trigger with aggression, gets the job done, and causes a pretty big upset.